Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelsey and I'm here to wrap up the last 2 months of reading. So if you weren't aware, which is weird because I feel like I was so annoying about the fact that I went to Europe on a 2-week vacation, but I am back and I wanted to wrap up both June and July because I did not do a wrap up for either of those months. So we'll start off with statistics, and just because it's easier, I will just combine the two stats of the 2 months. So in total, I read 16 books in June and July, 8 in June, 8 in July, which is like very even, very nice. That came out to a total of 5,359 pages, which is roughly 86 pages per day. Not my best. I usually try to reach 100 pages per day on average throughout the month, but obviously with vacations, with fucking around and just living my life, I didn't make that goal, which is fine. It's not something I like really hold myself to. It's just an easily completed goal, and 86 pages is not that far off from 100 anyways. Of those books, 95 hours were spent listening to them, whether that be through hybrid method where I read and listen at the same time, or just plain listening while I'm walking, while I'm working out. 95 hours. In regards to the star ratings for the 2 months, I had 2 5-star books, 4 4-star books, 7 3-star books, 2 2-star books, 0 1 stars, 0 D and Fs. I did have 1 book that I did not rate. I'll get into it, I'll mention it later. And the average rating came out to 3.61 stars. Pretty good. My average rating all the time is about a 3.5, around that mark, so nothing out of the ordinary here. And then in regards to the author identity, I read from 10 female authors and 6 male authors. And then in regards to the age range, I read from 12 adult books and 4 YA books. And then for the method of consumption, the format of the book, I read 6 audiobooks, 6 ebooks, and 4 physical books. So now I'll get into the books I read for content this month. I won't be discussing my thoughts and feelings in this video, but I will leave a link up above to all of the vlogs, live shows that I've done for these books so you can get my full thoughts. So I am currently reviving a book club that I once had with my friends Justin and Bobby called Professor Kelsey's Book Club, and every month we are just reading a variety of books. We've gone through a bit of an existential crisis, and we wanted 1 month of happiness, and that is where we read Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule. This is one of the first books in the revamping of the canon of Star Wars, the High Republic, and the High Republic is where the Jedis were like in charge and like running the world kind of thing. So you can see my thoughts there. I wouldn't say I'm the biggest fan of this book, so if you would like to see why and maybe some more positive perspectives, I will leave a link to that live show up above. I also read a bunch of arcs in the month of June, I believe. I am really trying to keep up with my NetGalley score, so I did have a couple of arcs that I needed to get to in June. The first of which was The Adult by Bronwyn Fisher. Then I read Sparrow by James Hines, Psyche and Eros by Luna McNamara, and then finally On Earth as It Is on Television by Emily Jane. These were 4 arcs that I read for that blog. Once again, my thoughts are all up there and I will leave it linked up above. Then in the hopes of finding a 5-star read, I read 3 books that were part of my 5-star predictions personal list that I have in my head that doesn't actually exist in a video. So for that vlog, I read The Wicker King by Kay Enkram, Yellowface by R.F. Kuang, and Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. I had so much fun making that vlog because obviously who doesn't want to read books that they think they will enjoy? So again, thoughts up above. Which one was the 5-star? You'll find out. So now we can finally get into the books that I did not read for any specific vlog. And the first of that collection of books is The Girl from the Other Side Volume 1. And this is written and drawn from a mangaka named Nagabe. So I read this for Books and Lala's Buzzword Readathon, where every month there is a specific buzzword. And the buzzword for June, I believe, was other. So this is a really cute manga that follows a little girl, and she's currently being taken care of what we understand as this sort of beastly creature. They are in the outside of this kingdom. So the outside is where these beasts, these beastly creatures live. And if they were to touch a human, the humans would then be infected by this like beastly virus. And inside the kingdom, the humans live there untouched and in peace. The young girl and the beast should have never met. They should have never like lived in harmony, but they do. The story unfolds from there. It's absolutely adorable. It was honestly the cutest thing I've probably read all year, and I really cannot wait to continue with this manga. I think I might read some this month just because I've been feeling like a little down in the dumps, and I think that this one would really like pull at my heartstrings, but also make me really happy. The lore is what is really interesting in this book, and something that I think keeps a reader captivated, because you kind of want to understand what is happening. Why are they able to talk and communicate and be together, but the humans are very distant from the outside beastly world? And the relationship between this cursed beast, this professor fatherly figure, and this young girl is absolutely adorable, and a super interesting dynamic that I'm really interested to see expanded upon further in further volumes. I'm so excited to see how this story develops, especially with the ending that happened in this volume. Highly recommend. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was absolutely cute, and if you've been hesitant to pick this up, I would highly recommend it. It's super quick, super cute, and super interesting and fun. Oh, I forgot to talk about the book that I did not read this month. It was just a book I read for work called How to Be a Games User Researcher by Steve Bromley. If you don't know, I am a user research analyst at a video game company, and this was just a book I read to further information that I need for my job and my career, and I thought it was good. I just didn't want to read it. After that, I did my 3rd reread of A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. But with the first book in her new series, The Fragile Threads of Power, coming out in September, I knew that I wanted to reread this series, especially because it's been quite a while. I don't know when the last time I read this book was. 2018. So it has been 5 years since I last read this book, which is a travesty. If you don't know, the A Dark Shade of Magic series follows a magician named Kel. Kel is able to travel between parallel Londons. He's initially from Red London. This is where magic thrives. It is very vibrant in the community, and almost everyone can pretty much perform magic. The other Londons that Kel is able to travel to include Grey London, where this is kind of like our London. Magic doesn't really exist. People don't really believe in magic, and it's dying out in a sense. White London is where magic is taking over, and people are really struggling to control magic. It's very dangerous there. Magic is essentially a poison, a toxin, and the world is slowly dying. Lastly, there is Black London. No one has ever really traveled to Black London. Black London is where magic has really taken over. Everything is death, everything is black, everything is charcoal, because the poison of magic has really taken over. As Kel is able to travel through these Londons, he sometimes brings things into other Londons, which he is obviously not allowed to do. And one day he comes into contact with something from Black London, and the story starts from there. I don't want to get too much into my feelings of this book. This is definitely one of the first books that got me back into fantasy after university. I picked up A Darker Shade of Magic on a whim, and it really honestly consumed my life. V. Schwab became my favorite author. I think she is a fantastic writer, and her way with words and her storytelling capabilities are just unmatched to me. If you don't agree, I don't agree with you. Kel, Lila, and Holland are some of my favorite characters of all time. I just absolutely love this series. If it wasn't clear, I obviously gave this 5 stars. I reread it to tab it up as an adult and have my new tabbing system in the books, but I still have like my old versions, and I think it would be fun to like kind of flip through and see the differences. So if you would be interested in that video, let me know to see what I highlighted this time versus what I underlined last time. I have nothing to say, but just that this is a fantastic series. This month, I will be reading the latter 2 books in this series in preparation, and hopefully have a vlog for the Fragile Threads, for the Fragile Threads of Power in September. So it's a V.E. Schwab extravaganza these next 2 months. So you keep on waiting. After that, I decided to pick up a book that I had on my TBR for quite a while. And I was definitely in this like horror-y mood in the summer, so I decided to pick up Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. This follows a young boy named Yadriel who wants to prove to his family that he can be a real brujo, and with the help of his cousin Maritzia, he performs the ritual of being a brujo himself in order to kind of set his cousin free. But the ghost that he actually summons is from a young boy from his school named Julian, and Julian is not about to go quietly into death. So this was a really fun read that definitely pulled at my heartstrings towards the end of the novel. I didn't expect to be fully invested in this book, especially because I'm having trouble connecting with YA this year. But once I met Yadriel, I realized that this would be a story, or at least a character, that I would really enjoy. Aiden Thomas tackles some really important subject matters within this book, specifically on gender and gender performance in the Latinx community. I found the plot in the book to be really interesting and how it kind of envelops these subject matters. And I loved the Bruix history and the elements of that that are integrated and blended into the this novel. The novel felt really authentic, and given that this book is own voices, you can really feel that authenticity within the pages. I am also so impressed that this is a debut novel because I could really see how Aiden Thomas will and probably has advanced his writing from this point. My issues with this novel lie mostly within its YA type of writing style, and specifically the way that most YA novels are paced. I don't think this is a problem with Aiden Thomas specifically, but rather the way YA books are paced nowadays. And specifically, I notice these things in action scenes, and I find that these action scenes move over too quickly, and some of the dialogue between the characters feels cringy. But I can see this improving as Thomas develops his craft and perhaps moves into other age ranges of novels. Overall, I enjoyed this. I think it's a really fun book if you're looking for Latinx and queer representation, and I gave this a 3.5 stars. Next, I read the second book in Brandon Sanderson's Year of Sanderson surprise extravaganza books. It was the Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England. I did not enjoy this in the slightest. I want to commemorate Brandon Sanderson. Good job, sir, for going out of your comfort zone, for writing new books. They're not for everyone, and this one was certainly not for me, but I still think it's worth commemorating a writer's experimentation novels. So the Frugal Wizard's Handbook is kind of like a Mission Impossible, like spy police officer type of book. There's this man, and he wakes up in a clearing in what seems to be medieval England with no memory and no idea how he got there, what's going on, what is happening. And he realizes that he is being hunted by people from his timeline, and his only source of what should have been able to help him is this handbook that he was supposed to have that has completely disintegrated and exploded into a million pieces. So he has these few fragments to help him piece together these memories, and the story unfolds from there. He realizes why he's there and blah, 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 blah. So like I was kindly trying to say, I really appreciate what Sanderson was trying to do here and how he was attempting to write outside of his comfort zone. And I don't want to discourage it, but this book was definitely not something that captivated me in a way that Brandon Sanderson's other books have always had. And I do see how it's unfair to compare an author's magnus opum of works to experiments, but I found this to be lacking in the many areas that I personally feel Sanderson excels at, which is plot, character building, and world building. I feel like this book lacked all three of those things. So I found myself really bored by the plot. I really did not care for our main character or really any of the characters in particular that surround the book. And the world building heavily relied on a reader's pre-existing knowledge of Anglo-Saxon history, which a reader may or may not have. I did, however, find the backstory of the world building where there is this company that is sending individuals back into time fun and interesting, and those excerpts of guides and contracts and what these people need to sign and piecing together that part of the world to be really fascinating. And I wish that the book was focusing more on that rather than this story that bored me overall. Alas, I guess not every Sanderson can be a win, and this was not it, at least for me. I know a lot of people have enjoyed this book, but yeah, I gave it 2 stars, and I hate that I'm saying that. But let's get into our final 3 books. The first of which is Here We Are, Feminism for the Real World, and this is edited by Kelly Jensen, but obviously written by a bunch of other contributors. And basically the synopsis is 44 writers, dancers, actors, and artists contribute essays, lists, poems, comics, and illustrations about everything from body positivity to romance to gender identity to intersectionality to the greatest girl friendships in fiction. So you're gonna see this within these 2 as well, but much like with most collections I read, there are going to be some stories that hit and others that do not. I do want to point out that I think that this novel is really important for people, especially younger individuals who are just now opening their eyes to the concept and the idea of feminism and how it affects them daily or does not affect them daily. However, there were stories in here that just really did not hit the mark for me. I found some essays to really not challenge the status quo and quite simplistic on that fact because they did not go in or discuss or bring anything new to the topic that they were writing about. That being said, I do think that the format of the book is really fun, and I appreciate the mixed media and presenting this idea in a new way that can appeal to multiple readers and new ways to tackle writing on this subject matter. I give this a 3 stars. Like I said, some hit, some didn't, but I do still think that this is sort of essential reading, especially to younger people. And the last two books here, I read them while on vacation. So the first of which is Some of My Best Friends by Taja Eason. This is a collection of essays that focus on race, justice, and the limits of good intentions that your friends may or may not have, or the population may or may not have. So I really, really enjoyed this book. I listened to it on audio as well, and it was, I believe, narrated by the author, and she did a really excellent job. But what you learn in this book is that she was a voice actor, so it makes 100% sense why this would work so well for me. I found it incredibly interesting and easy to read and understand. I don't think Eason was trying to revolutionize readers, but definitely provided thoughtful analysis on systemic racism and societal structures through the lenses of these personal anecdotes and essays. I cannot honestly say that there are any essays that I enjoyed more or less than others, which usually isn't the case with collections. They were all really interesting in their own way and definitely demonstrated Eason's writing skill and authenticity throughout her words. I really enjoyed this. I highly recommend. It's Canadian lit, so I would definitely recommend this to a lot of people because I think it's super interesting, super fascinating, and I gave it 4 stars. And then finally, the last book I read for the month, which I actually finished on like the first 2 days of August, but like I was still on vacation, it doesn't count, and that is Uncertain Kin by Janice Lynn Mather. This is also another collection of essays, although fiction, that follow the lives of women living in the Bahamas and some of those who have immigrated to Canada. So this was an interesting collection of short stories that examine the everyday struggles of these women, but this is the case where, like with most of my experiences with collections of short stories, there are some that are going to hit and there are some that are just going to fall flat for me. It was really difficult for me as well to find the connection between the stories. So a lot of them just felt very separate to me and didn't feel conclusive or complete in their own way. Mather does have a really beautiful writing style, so this collection definitely made me more keen and intrigued to read a full-length novel from her. Overall, I think that this is a really interesting book to read, and I definitely think you should give it a shot because you will probably be a lot smarter than me and find the connections between all of the stories that I just did not. I gave this a 3 stars. It's still a very solid read, but just not one that really captivated my attention at the end of the month. And that's it. Those are all of the books I read in both June and July. Please let me know down below if you've read any of them. Did you like them? Did you hate them? Let me know. And if you would like to follow me on any of my other social medias, I do leave a link down below to my Twitter, Goodreads, and Instagram if you would like to follow me there. And of course, because it is the end of the video, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. I tell you every time, but it does wonders for my channel and makes me feel really, 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 really good. And that's it. I never know how to end these things after begging for likes and subscribers. So I will see you next time, okay? Bye!